And hello guys, so I believe we are streaming, and I guess you guys will tell us. And yeah, we had one hell of a problem here with the setup. Clint, you wanna talk about the setup today or no?
Well, we might as well show them. And, so we had the Ursa set up with the.
Yeah, here.
Might as well show. Yeah.
Yeah, let me just go here. I can see what I'm seeing. So yeah, here we have a fancy mic.
Which we're not using it because it's connected to the Ursa over here.
Yeah. We have
Which isn't working.
No, the Ursa is working.
Oh, sorry, the Ursa is working.
Yeah.
I'm transmitting the signal with the wireless transmitter.
It's all props, guys. Don't believe that. It's all props.
Long story short, basically, it was one point of basically a failure. Everything works. Everything was thing. We tracked it down, but somewhere where the signal is being converted to basically like a webcam signal to the computer, when it's basically not working there. It was looking very weird. So that's why my home setup I always use the Blackmagic web presenter, which is I love it because it's so simple.
Which is the missing key. I believe if we had that, we should have no issue. Yeah.
And the reason why this is all happening like this is because we're on location today. We're again at Clint's house in Toronto. Because of family reasons and things like that, I had to travel. Long story short, it's bad weather. We don't have internet access anywhere else also, so that's another reason. And plus, always good reason to hang out with Clint. So today's show is about picking the right camera for your project. So I guess want to talk about my approach, and also the reason why I want to talk about it is because most often I get asked, even like the video I did this week about the problems with the Sony A6500. A lot of people were, in that video kind of saying, oh, why would you choose this camera then if it has all these problems and things like that. And it's not to say that camera is bad, it's just like every camera has problems. There's no perfect camera, at least I haven't found one. You?
No. You need at least two. I like the big ones because you get a lot of versatility and a lot of tools.
Yeah, like the Ursa is, it's a nice cinema camera, but then again, it's
you need
big.
a small, that's the thing, because when we shot Actors Life and the car scene, there was no way we could use the Ursa and set it up to be discreet and mount it on the car, because we were actually driving the car.
Yeah.
If it was in a truck bed, then okay, we could have got away with the Ursa, but that's when I think a small camera comes in handy, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you can set up cinema cameras on cars, but it basically it's a much bigger setup. And then you kind of don't really want the actors to be driving the car. So it's basically, it takes the production to a whole other level. Is once you're working with a bigger camera, like for example, Clint was saying this car scene, the only way we could have done it is setting up this big grip, basically rig on the side of the car, on the front of the windshield, where we have the cameras basically pointing at the actors. But then the camera and the setup is so big that it would obscure the view of the actors. So there's no way they could actually physically drive the car.
Yeah.
So either you do it then fake green screen or something and make it look like the car is moving, or you have to actually tow the car. To tow the car, and it's a whole other setup. You need another car, you need the tow rig, you need usually permits depending on where you're filming. So having, like I said, a better camera, but in this case happens to be bigger, is like I said, sometimes a big problem. So that's why I would say, for me at least, I don't know how you approach it. You also have been working now as a DP, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So as a cinematographer, director of photography, the way I approach it is, first thing I always look at is budget, because it makes a big difference. Like, whether it's a music video that I'm doing or film or something, I'll be honest and okay, well, this is the budget that we have to work with, or I'll ask the client, what's the max that you can spend. Because it makes a difference. It's not so much like what camera you can afford to, but then you got to think about how bigger the production is going to have to be, or how small you can go with that particular camera setup. Because again, like I said, it's bigger cameras require bigger setups usually. Like even aside from the car thing, you just need bigger tripods. You need let's say you wanted to get a slider shot.
You need one of those heavy-duty sliders with a ball head mount.
Yeah, so it's usually those are sliders that you can't have like one person lift it up, and then you need like two people, somebody guarding the camera. Like, it just means then that you have to have more crew.
Yeah.
You're going to be moving slower, so you're going to probably do less setups in a day. So again, that means you need more shooting days. So that means you need again a bigger budget, right? So bigger, better camera, just because you can afford getting a nice, expensive cinema camera doesn't always mean that that's the camera you should be shooting with. And so a lot of times, I'll end up choosing, for example, like a Sony A6500 particularly because it is so freaking tiny. It's nice and fast and to work with. And yeah, it has limitations.
Yeah.
Right?
As long as you shoot around it, you can get amazing.
Exactly.
Like the music video you did, that looked amazing. People didn't even realize it was a 6500 until you told them.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's you can think now. Sometimes, like in my video about the 6500, I talk about that it has the limitations. How do you overcome them? Or sometimes to overcome them is to add extra things, accessories. So in a way, you're building the camera and making it bigger. But the good thing is that it's still at the end of the day a small camera. So like, if you really just need to get a quick shot and you can, you have this tight little, space where you can only put the camera in there, then it's good because you can strip it down, put the camera in there, record it, and then go back to your bigger setup if you want to. It just gives you more flexibility. Also, I mean, look at features. Every camera is going to have different features. So even aside from the size, like let's say the Ursa has great image quality, all that stuff, but definitely is not something you want to be using when you're shooting at night in available light, right? Like if you're doing a documentary or something.
Yeah.
Have you tried shooting anything like that with the Ursas?
I mean, I did that shot horror with one light, this light basically.
Oh, okay, but that is a strong light.
But on its own, it's not like a low light camera. Like
let's say if you had to go on the streets of Toronto and shoot something at night and you don't know what the lighting's going to be there.
It's you could probably pull it off, but it's a bit of a gamble, right?
Exactly, it's a gamble. Yeah. Whereas if you take like Sony A7S or something, you're going to get an exposure, right? It doesn't mean it's going to be a beautiful looking shot. I would still always say you want to have lights.
It won't be as noisy in the shadows.
Exactly. But it's but at the end of the day, you're going to get the shot, so that's why then you're choosing the right camera for that. So I mean, for me, it's kind of like the first thing is a budget. If I know that the budget is low, then there's no way I'm going to go with a big cinema setup. So that's the first thing I look at. Second thing I'm going to look at is cinematography style, or like what is it that we're going for with that project. And then because this way is going to dictate right away, because I know what kind of lenses I'm going to use, and whether, for example, if it's a cinematography style that's very documentary, then I know we're not going to be using a lot of lights. We're going to try to utilize a lot of the available light, whether it's available location light, practicals, or whatever, like the actual, sun, twilight, whatever, right? And in that case, you want a camera that you know is going to handle those different lighting situations.
Like a running gun setup, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, not always, because let's say if you're shooting a film and it's all outside but during daylight, and you're shooting somewhere where there's plenty of light, sunlight, then you can shoot with the Ursa still. You can do it, right?
Yeah.
Given that you're okay taking up longer time on that stuff, because it's like, again, it's a bigger camera. Or for example, going with the GH5, for example, great camera, has many great features. It's not as good in low light as Sony A7S, for example. A6500 even is better. So in that case, if we're shooting outside during daylight but we have low budget, I would still probably go with something like the GH5 because it has many other great features that the A6500 doesn't. So those are the kind of things, Or for example, if we're doing a lot of gimbal work or Steadicam work, and on a big budget, you're gonna have, again, with the Ursa, you can do it, you can get beautiful shots, but you're gonna have to have a whole team, right? Somebody else pulling focus and things like that. If I know, again, we can't have a bigger team, and a lot of times it's just going to be me and maybe one assistant, and there's no way I'm going to have a monitor and have the assistant, and setting up all that stuff probably is just in itself is going to take time. So in that case, I would probably go not with the Ursa, not with the GH5. I would go with something like, with some of the Canon cameras with the dual pixel AF, or the A6500 actually is like, it's even better AF from my tests than A7S II, for example. So A6500 is, and it's so tiny that you can put it on any gimbal. So right away you can go with a cheaper gimbal, which again means you can work on a lower budget. And it has great AF. Like literally you can register people's faces and it locks on, and you can walk around and get better focus than having an average focus puller who's trying to do it, in real time. So those are the things that I kind of put into considerations. I look at style. What kind of locations we're going to be shooting in, what kind of lighting scenarios, and like I said, budget above all is going to dictate a lot. That's my approach. I don't know. What about you?
No, it's pretty much the same, right? It comes down to budget, and then the style they want.
Yeah.
And then I pick from.
And when it comes to, because I've gotten people who say very often they're like, oh, my client says I have the money for I can rent the Red Epic or whatever, and we want to shoot the whole video on that. And then I would say, okay, that's all great, but is that all the money they have? Like, do they have money for other things? Like I said, a bigger crew, bigger setup gear, bigger tripods, bigger sliders, bigger, you know, and because if they don't, or even, you know, having better lighting, because a Red Epic, again, is not a great low light camera, so you need to light it, and you need to light it properly. So that's the thing that I would always suggest that you want to, you know, ask your clients, right? Because the thing is that just because they can afford a certain camera doesn't mean that they should still be shooting in that camera, because they have to afford everything else that then comes with that bigger production, right? And then the same thing is like, you know, if I'm negotiating with clients, like I said, that's gonna be my big thing. Is like sometimes, you know, they'll be like, okay, we have $4,000, so we can definitely hire, you know, rent this camera for 1 or 2 days. But then, you know, I'll try to convince them to be like, well, you know, let's go with a more affordable camera. The quality might not be, pixel to pixel. If you watched it side by side, obviously, you know, a DSLM or DSLR, although they're getting very close, but a lot of times they're not going to have the sharpness, the dynamic range of some of these pro, you know, cinema cameras. But they're so close that at the end of the day, I would say that it's better. You're better off trading that slight quality for the fact that now suddenly you have all this money that otherwise you're just going to spend on the camera, and you can put it into the production, right? The production value, better crew, you know, feeding your actors, for example, like keeping your actors comfortable. Like that's where, you know, it's those things are very important, because at the end of the day, if you have grumpy actors, you have shitty acting, right? So. Yeah, from your experience,
it's the same approach.
Okay, so
covered everything I would have said.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the kind of thing, and that's why I'll tell you guys that it's before you take on any project, think about those things. Think about those things that are, like I said, might not seem like they're, you know, like they're important right off the top, because you're just thinking, especially as cinematographers, I think we tend to. Because maybe, you know, obsess or whatever, just concentrate too much on the gear.
Yeah, too much on the gear. I think.
Yeah. Just like we were today here. We wanted to make a better looking show for you guys, but it's just we did not have enough time and all this, you know, and all the equipment. Yeah. So just because we have a nice, beautiful camera, amazing microphone, all that stuff, it was better at the end of the day to just stream here with this webcam. So at least we have something going. And at the end of the day, it really just comes down to, do you want to get that one perfect shot, or do you want to actually get everything that you need for your production? Right? So.
Yeah, I think it comes down to knowing your shot list, and then the budget, right? Once you know exactly what kind of shots you need.
Yeah, shot list is going to tell you a lot.
Yeah, it'll tell you a lot, right? And then once you know the budget, then you have an idea. Okay, I can go small. Can I go big?
Yeah.
Right, and then that should pretty much.
Now, because you've invested in your Ursa, you've been using it like heavily, right? Pretty much on every project. Have you shot anything? Like an actual project for somebody else where you weren't using the Ursa?
No, but there was one where I had to go to Cleveland to shoot, but they provided a whole Sony package, so I was shooting with the FS7.
Okay.
Yeah, so it worked. I mean, they had the whole Sony package, so it worked. But yeah, usually, because all my gear, I made sure is compatible with the Ursa, so my jib, my slide, and everything. I've bought it so that way I can quickly go from one to the other with minimum time.
But have you done then, with this whole nice big cinema setup, have you done these projects that are like super low budget projects where it's like pretty much you and maybe one assistant like running and gunning kind of thing?
Yeah, I've done it. I've done it with because since I already had all the gear, there was nothing to get.
Okay.
So the budget was just. I'm like.
Well, because you have other like DSLMs,
the problem is
GH4 and
stuff. I have that, but now all my sliders and my jibs and all. They only accept 100 mm mounts.
Oh, okay.
And
so now all your support gear is really heavy.
Yeah, that's all my support gear supports only the big camera, not the small cameras anymore. So if I go with a small camera, all I have is that. I need to get an adapter then to mount to all the different stuff. Yeah. So I made it easier because plus I get more work.
But how was it then? How was it working on a super low budget where? It's a very tiny crew, and you're just pretty much doing it on your own.
There were times I guess bought the smaller stuff. As a matter of fact, I did. The first day I took the big camera. Yeah. The second day I just took the small one. Yeah. I'm like, don't worry, I can match the footage. I'm like, it was not worth the hassle. Like for the amount you get, I was like, okay.
Well, I mean, it's physically hard, right? Like your back hurts after the whole day.
It's too much. Yeah.
That's why I mean, with a nice big cinema camera, I mean, it's like I said, getting some nice pro features, but the size itself, I think for me, like I said, I always say that there's no perfect camera, and I think for me, maybe one day there will be a perfect camera, but basically it's when camera manufacturers can deliver some of those features that you're getting in like the Ursa or the Arri, even like the Arri, Alexa, the Mini. It's still not that small. It's like a little bit smaller maybe than the Ursa, but it's very close to it. So they're still big cameras. So when they can do like these mini itsy bitsy micro cinema cameras that have all those features, yeah, then I think I'll be like, okay, that's a great camera. But then I would still want a camera, like I said, like let's say if you took the Ursa or the Arri Amiras, for example, and shrunk it down to the size of like the GoPro, let's say, even. Like super small. And I think in the future they'll be able to, or maybe not go that small because the image sensor, you don't want to go smaller, but let's say, A6500, right? Yeah. If they could shrink it down to that size, but they kept all the same features, it would still not be a perfect camera for me because, like I said, in the cases where I want to shoot in really low light or cases where I can't afford to have a wireless video system and a second person to operate focus when I'm on a Steadicam or on a gimbal, in those cases, I would still want the Ursa or the Arri Amira to have better low light performance and have an actual AF, which they don't. Like no cinema camera has autofocus in it. So those are the features that are, like I said, for most DPs, most of the time they're not important for us. But then there are those little cases where you like, I even remember we shot your short film Conflict. Where because of the size and everything, I decided to shoot on the GH4. Now, one mistake I made is if there was that one shot that you had on a gimbal, where we couldn't basically because the GH4 AF just sucks. So and it was problematic because I remember then I had to like kind of keep the same distance between me and the actors. I think just for that one shot, and then that was such a headache. And then I made a mistake because we were again, shooting everything fast and it was raining on and off. I remember, and I screwed up that one shot. So sorry, but I did screw up that one shot where basically I managed to get everything in focus. That gimbal shot, but I was so preoccupied with setting the focus and everything that then, when the lighting situation changed, I forgot and I didn't switch the camera settings, and the shot was underexposed by like I think 1.5 f-stop.
Yeah, but
so we saved that.
Saved it in post.
Yeah, but I mean, but it's still each time I watch now, I'm like, it's that extra grain I see in there. So those are things, and that's why I would say also, again, you won't always have the ability to do that, but think about the budget, think about where you're shooting, how you're shooting, how fast. Look at your shot list. But also then do camera tests. Like once you think, okay, this is the right package for me, this is the right camera, the right lenses that I'm going to be using, do tests with it because a lot of I don't know if you had anything.
I messed up. It's funny, the web series I did teaching how to make the film. That was the first time I was using the Ursa. And in there,
it's a great series, by the way. So, like for me, I wasn't involved in it, so I watched it and I was like, I don't see the mistakes. But you're saying what?
But I was so this is my first time using the Ursa, and everything else with it, like it was a new tripod, new slider, everything was new, right? Okay. And one of my lessons in the web series was to always test your gear. Yeah. I didn't test my gear. I shot the series and I made mistakes. I didn't follow my own advice. So yes, always test your.
Which happens because sometimes, especially on low budget projects, you just don't have the time to do the test. Yeah. Right? But I would say if you can make the time for it.
Always just do a test run. Just make sure most complicated shots you do with practice. Everything goes smooth then.
But you managed to save it. By the way, it's a great series. So
it's all fixing in post. I had to fix all my mistakes in post. I'm like, oh my god.
No, it looks good.
It's funny. I'm like listening to my own self. He's like, Limey Cricket is saying, always test your gear, and I'm like, why did I test my gear?
But actually, are you going to be doing more episodes? Because you have 4 episodes on there, right?
People have been asking. They love it. They want more. So I'm thinking maybe I'll expand on stuff I haven't talked about, like working with the crew. Okay. Like working with you and how I worked with you guys and stuff like that. Because once you start involving crew members, then
what about like working with actors?
Yeah. Okay. So how was it? The switch from going the first project you did was like small, right?
Yeah. It was just like. Husband, wife, and 2 actors. It was just 4 people the entire time, right?
Okay.
And now I'm going to show something like working like Actors Life. Actors Life had the most you've ever done, right? It was like 15, 20 people. Yeah. So trying to show now, now how do you go from just 2 people? Because the big thing
was it a big adjustment for you then? Because I don't remember my.
No, because it wasn't. It was a bit more planning. That's what it was.
Okay.
Because now I have to account for all these other people who are coming in. I got to make sure that no one's idling or
Oh, so scheduling, yeah.
So scheduling was a big thing. Because before it was just simple. It was just like, hey, actor, come here, one whole day, we shoot. That was done.
Yeah.
That was how the first movie worked, right? But this one was 3 days. And we had multiple locations, right? So I had to coordinate scheduling with the sets, making sure that, and then catering, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a lot more.
I remember the catering on, I think it was on day 2 on that studio location.
The studio, yeah.
Oh man, that was some of the best catering.
So I want to do something like that, working with a big crew, how that works, you know, how to work with a big crew. And then maybe
I think you should do more, because I personally, if you guys haven't seen it, check out Clint's series. I'll provide a link to it. Just a really, I mean, it's what I like about your show that you did is that it's educational, but it's kind of it's like watching a movie.
Yeah.
About you making a movie. Right? It's funny. It's entertaining.
Yeah, I want to do something different. Initially, I was going to do like how you do it, just talk to the camera and say stuff. But I'm like,
it's been done before.
I need to do something to stand out, something a little different. So I thought, okay, you know what? I happened to watch that Netflix show, series of unfortunate events. I'm like, it's not bad. And then
so that's how you got.
Yes, I got the idea, but then it didn't still click to me yet, because until when we did Conflict, and the guy who plays Limey Cricket's UCal, he auditioned for that TV show, and I saw his audition. He had one audition tape, which was basically him talking to the camera. It was a commercial, right? He was pretending to talk to the camera, and he was explaining a scenario. And then I was like, I found my narrator. So that's when I put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, okay, perfect. He's going to be this. I'm going to take this and, make something around it. And then we all knew Steve was going to play me, because he was the perfect for me. And
he got the accent and everything.
And then we found Amanda from Conflict, right? So she would be perfect for Paula. So then it was just a matter of writing it down, and then I just went to work. Yeah. So
good show. So check it out, guys, if you haven't seen Clint's thing, and hopefully encourage him, leave comments on his YouTube channel, and so he can make more episodes. I want to watch more stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and don't forget, you can win the cool shoulder rig.
Oh yeah, you're doing the contest.
Right? I think it ends on. It's around 10 days or so left, so you still have time. So check it out. It's clint-d'souza.com/giveaway.
Cool.
Links will be in the thing. So
I'll provide it. Any questions?
Yeah, we got a few questions.
Yeah, so let's get through it and
let's have fun with them. Let's get through them.
No, I know that. Yeah.
Excuse me.
I'm just dreading the weather outside. I'm like thinking we gotta drive back in that weather.
Oh, he's scared of Canadian winter.
Yeah, I am.
He's spoiled.
Right.
Okay, so here question from Shinutz. Auray, he's making a joke here, but says Auray Alexa Mini is the right camera for any project. Now I just need to get one.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Is it though really?
No, kind of like I said, it's got great features, but it doesn't have AF. It's not good in low light. It's still not mini like they say.
Just good skin tones.
Yeah, it's things. So it's it's got amazing colors and dynamic range and all that stuff. But that's it's
there is no perfect camera yet.
Yeah, there isn't. Like I said, so.
Okay.
And it's expensive. Over 50,000. So.
Yeah, that's.
Trevor Pinnicky, he's one of our regular viewers on the show. He's asking. He's curious about the camera cost, but not just the sticker price, but actually what it costs to use it in terms of the batteries you might have to get, and
all the
extras.
Yeah, exactly.
The media, and actually when you work with it, then in the post also, what kind of a CPU, GPU might need.
Yeah, exactly. So shooting with when you're shooting with cameras that let's say shoot in RAW, you gotta take into consideration you're gonna need a lot more media, a lot more just storage on a hard drive. And better computing power, because then to edit that stuff. And
so it
also depends on the codec, because I don't know about this, but apparently the Sony codec, especially if you do the XVAC, that dash I or something, I forgot. That really needs some really computer power.
Yeah, if you need to decode certain codecs. When I shot, that was one of the few reasons why I decided not to purchase back in the day when I was still looking to get upgrade my cameras, and I was looking at the Sony FS5.
Yeah.
Great little camera. It's small. It has a lot of beautiful cinema, camera features. But yeah, the codec was nasty in that thing. It was just horrible. Like I would put it on, like my top of the line editing systems, and it sometimes had problems. Like if I had like 2 or 3 streams of that codec going, it just killed the GPU and the CPU. So
yeah, that's something people don't realize. They have to look into the codec because that kind of determines what kind of machine you need to edit.
And that's why I think like those DSLMs, like GH4, GH5, Sony A7S, A6500, like it shoots an H.264 or 6.5, and it's not the best codec, but you know what, when you're on a budget and you're limited on storage and you're editing on a laptop or something, that's the perfect thing that you want. It doesn't require as much computing power and all that stuff. Because, for example, ProRes, you can record many cameras in ProRes. ProRes is very good on your GPU and CPU, so you really don't need a powerful computer, but the files are huge. So then you're gonna need really, really big, hard drives. So yeah, those are definitely things to keep, in consideration. And aside from that, like, because the question was about, like you said, the accessories, right, like batteries and all that stuff. That's also
the
something.
True cost of
Yeah, exactly, the true cost. So like with many cinema cameras, you're gonna require bigger batteries, and also like one thing that I really hate about the Red Epic is that they chew through batteries, especially when you consider it to the URSAs. Like URSAs are pretty good. The Red Epic and or the first Red camera, they used to go through batteries like crazy. And whenever I had to do gimbal work on the Red cameras, I haven't used the new Mysterium. I don't know how they are, whether they're more power efficient, but all those cameras like Red Epic and before, and even the Red Dragon I used once on a gimbal. Oh my god, I hated it. I hate it because you kind of, with the Red Dragon, I remember one time I was shooting and you want to use the battery grip, like with the hand grip that you put, and it has a built-in battery. But that thing, like when I was shooting in 6K, it died in like 10-15 minutes. It was, so like literally, you could idle the camera, but once you record it, it was like you had 2 or 3 takes. I remember we were shooting a music video, 5 minutes long, and it was like 3 takes, and boom, it died. And we didn't have enough battery, so that was a big problem. And then we couldn't put a V-mount battery on it because it just did not fit in the gimbal that we had. So those are big things to take into consideration. Is that it's just sometimes not even the cost, but it's just not user friendly, right, for certain situations. So, yeah.
What were your first cameras that you worked on as a filmmaker?
Oh, first.
Let's not include the videos that that you forced your family to participate in.
Yeah. Like I had like video cam, but like I would say the first camera where I was like, okay, I'm gonna be, getting into this like a cinematographer and the film director was the Canon XL1, which was that big, kind of cool looking camera with a nice lens. I remember it came and I had an interchangeable lens mount, although finding lenses for that was a nightmare. And that was in 1997, I think, 96. Oh, yeah, 96, I think about it. And that was a big investment. That camera was like, I don't know if you remember that camera at all, but...
I'm wondering how many people actually know what this camera is.
Yeah, and that was, God, I spent, and it was like, I remember I was working already doing animation, and so, I had a steady job in the film industry and stuff, but I remember I had to still save up money. It was like $15,000 with everything. It was expensive, and it shot normal SD video. It was not, big sensor. It was like 1-inch sensor, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken correctly. So it wasn't like you're getting this nice shallow depth of field or good low light performance or anything like that. Yeah, it was just, it was like I said, it was a huge. Now at the time, when it comes to video cameras, it wasn't definitely a cinema camera, but a video camera, it was a big step up from anything else you could get in that price range. Because you could get broadcast, like, cameras, but they were like D-Beta or something used for television, but they were also $50,000. So it was a big investment. And then I remember the first, because I've shot then, I was shooting like little commercials and stuff, and we shot some stuff on film. But then the first sort of film camera was for our film that we produced with Lucas called Under Black Skies. And that was shot on 16mm because of cost. Like, we didn't want to shoot 35 because 35mm stock, and then the processing and everything was just insanely expensive. So we decided, well, film at that time, this was 2001, was going to be like the better quality we can get than what we can get with any video camera anyways. So we shot it on 16mm, and the camera we bought was the Auray Flex, was the SR1. Workhorse, all that stuff. I mean, the camera that we used was produced in the 60s, so it was you could kick and drop that thing. But still, the camera itself survived, but we went through 2 motors, I believe, on that shoot. It kept on overheating and dying on us. And the camera itself wasn't cheap. It was still like $5,000. So
better than the 15,000 Canon.
Well, yeah, that. But then you know, on the Canon, I still have it. I think somewhere in my storage. The Canon, you know, the thing is you use the little 8mm tapes. Yeah. The film camera you need to buy, and we still have all these spools of film, negative and stuff, and then developing that and then transferring that. Oh my God, it was a nightmare. So those are the cameras. And then when it comes to like digital cameras, like I didn't really buy the first like good cinema digital cameras, like the red one. We loved using it, used it on various projects, short films, music videos, but it was all rentals. It didn't make sense to buy it. It was expensive also, and it wasn't, like I said, it came with its quirks. But the first camera that I am like really in the digital world, I'm saying that I really got excited was the Canon 7D. Oh, yeah. I got the Canon 7D, I think it was 2009 or 2008. And then we shot Dinner Date, a short film, and I swear to God, I put it out there, got onto a bunch of film festivals, and like everybody who watched it thought we shot on a film. They were like, "Oh wow, it's so great, you know, to see still people shooting on 35mm." I remember like one guy at a festival saying it, and I'm like, "No, I shot it on the Canon 7D," and they're like, "No," they're like, and I'm like, "No, seriously." So, and it's just, I guess, a matter of knowing how to use it, what lenses to use and stuff. But yeah, I love that camera, and I used that camera, I remember, with Lucas for so many projects. So we went through that, and then after that, you know, it was the Canon, you know, with the Sony A7S and stuff like that. But yeah, since then there's a lot of options.
Yeah, now.
What about you? Now. Your first?
The first way I experimented with video was with the Canon T4i.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's also good.
I did one family project with that. But then when I decided to take it seriously, then I started doing with the GX4.
GH4.
So GX4 was my workhorse.
The 4K and the better compression.
Yeah, because I started recently, right? So not way back the way you did it.
Yeah, but it's still.
So the GX4 was my workhorse for a while, and then I finally got the Ursa.
And then you just jumped. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a good deal on the Ursa. I picked one up, and
Ursa is great.
Yeah.
Anyways, next question.
What are your thoughts on the new GH5S?
Oh, my thoughts, I pretty much have none because I haven't tested it. I mean, I've seen the same stuff that everybody sees online. So, I mean, you know, my opinion, I guess, is it looks interesting. It doesn't look like it's definitely an upgrade. It just simply looks like they kind of took certain nice features from the GH5, but then took away some, right?
Doesn't it have the dual ISO?
Yeah, so it's just better in low light, but then it doesn't have some of the other features that GH5 has. So, I mean, I don't know, it's an interesting camera, but it's, like I said, it's one of those things like, you know, even like before we started streaming, I was telling Clint about, Clint or my brother, I forget now who, I was talking about
We're all Polish, so.
Yeah, Clintowski. We were talking about, there was the A6500, I think, like what I think about it and stuff, and yeah, it's a great camera, but at the same time, like I said, it's nothing that is going to wow anybody right now, is because it's just, there's so many options right now, you know. If you had released something like the GH5S, I don't know, 5 years ago or like 10 years ago, oh my God, it would be revolutionary. It would have changed the industry. But now it's like, oh, it's got great features, but there's so many other cameras that have these great features. So it kind of comes down to what are the tools really that you need, what's, you know, and that's it. Kind of, you know, do all the check marks, just look at, you know, make a list of what's important to you, and then you see.
It is harder now for filmmakers to decide what camera to buy.
Yeah, it
is.
There's
so many options, and
here's a question: should I buy or rent? So maybe that kind of.
I would say, well, look at what you can afford. If you can afford to buy something, and you know, whether it's like lease it and it's low monthly payments, or you just simply buy it and you're you buy it and, you know, like straight up for cash, and it's not gonna make a dent in your wallet, as in where you're like struggling and, you know, paying your other bills and stuff. Then I would just say, and also if you know you're gonna use it, because I've seen people met one filmmaker who, I don't know how the hell he got the money, but he bought the red, I think it was Dragon.
Wow.
Just straight up, his first camera.
Oh, smokes.
Yeah, and he's a young guy. I think he's 18, 19. So I was like, I don't know how, but whatever. He had the money. And I was like, you know, and for him it was no problem. It was like, oh yeah, well, I can just buy it. He was like asking me for advice. He bought it, sent me photos on thing on Facebook. Look at Tom, I got the camera, it's so great, and I'm shooting and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. But then afterwards, I remember, like after like a few months, he's like, oh man, I don't know what to do with this camera. I don't know what should I be shooting. What's your advice and stuff. And I was like saying like to him, like, why did you can't buy the camera if you obviously didn't need it? Like, you know, I mean, I guess if you're a millionaire, it really is like, who cares? It's just like spending money on a coffee. But even in that case, I'd be like, you know, just why bother spending money on a camera thing? So, like I said, for somebody spending, you know, $60,000 or I believe that's how much his rig cost, is nothing. For somebody else, spending $500, it might be, you know, a lot of money. So, really depends on your budget. But I would say, think about, first of all, do you need a camera right now? Are you going to be using it actively? If you are, then buy the camera, whatever it is that you can afford, then it's going to be the best camera for you. But at the same time, you know, if you don't need a camera, don't buy it. There's another thing is actually on the video I released this week, is there was a little discussion that was started there about, some guy said, was it something about, you know, oh, should I get the A6500 because I'm worried that they're going to release the next version of the camera in like the next month or something, you know.
That's always going to happen. Like,
yeah, exactly. And it's especially now, right?
Yeah, I mean, now they're coming out so many updates and so many different cameras. Yeah, like,
so
because if it meets your needs, just go in.
Just get it.
Otherwise, you'll wait forever.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's no point in waiting because there might something better is going to come out. So it doesn't matter. Even if you buy it now or buy it 2 months from now, guess what? A few months later, because now it's like every year there's so many new cameras coming out. Something else is that's gonna come out that's newer, that where you're gonna be like, oh man, I wish I had this feature. But that's why you shouldn't buy it because, oh, I think it's the best camera. You should buy it because I'm shooting something right now. I need a camera. So buy the camera, shoot the project. You know that for those few months, let's say till the next update of the this camera comes out, at least you've shot some cool stuff. Yeah.
Or it also depends because let's say NAB is coming up, right? That's when they announce most of the new stuff. But so you're just a few weeks away from NAB. Maybe you rent if you have a project that time, and then wait.
Yeah, exactly. NAB. It's like one project, and that's all you need.
Yeah, and then wait for NAB, see what the announcements are. If it's something new, it's coming out you like, then okay, that's it. Otherwise, you know what to do.
But that's the big thing is look at how often you think you're gonna be using this camera. If it's, you know, if you don't think you're gonna be shooting anything, anything where you're making money, then don't buy something that's expensive that you can't pay for right away. And because you just don't need it that much, then you just rent it, borrow it, go to. There's companies like ShareGrid, for example. There's, I think, a few other ones where there's other filmmakers that are literally renting their gear to other filmmakers, and it's very cheap. You can rent the GH4, you can rent the A7S for very cheap, like $20-30 a day. Why don't you just go and rent it there? And also, if you're one of those filmmakers who did already buy something, let's say even at, you know, some of those more affordable cameras like Sony A6500. You bought it, but you just don't happen to be using it that much, and it's just sitting in your closet. Go on ShareGrid and you know, or one of those other websites, or even, you know, well, I guess you go on Craigslist and all that stuff, but it's very dangerous. Somebody could just steal your camera. But ShareGrid, I guess, and those other companies, the good thing is it's all insured. You don't have to worry about that stuff. So if somebody just doesn't return your camera, well, it's covered. Somebody damages it, it's covered. But you can make extra money actually from these cameras. You can make 20, 30, 50. You know, you can make a few $100s, you know, a day depending on what camera you have. So.
And I'm thinking of renting some of my gear out. So based on this question, how many projects do you think you need to work a month to justify buying a camera?
I mean, it just comes down to numbers. Look at how much it is that you're spending on the gear, and how much you're going to be making and shooting, let's say, per month, and does it pay off the bills that you have to pay off, you know?
But can you really, though, you know, buy that first camera and the first kit, thinking that, okay, it's going, you know, where you have to justify you're going to make that money back? Like, isn't it sort of you need to make just an investment?
Well, yeah.
Just like school. Like, you go to school and people are okay. And I mean, the idea is after you spend so many, you know, 4 years.
When you're talking about
this, you're supposed to make the money back, but it's difficult to really make a business, you know, plan and say, okay, for sure, I'm going to make the money back, right?
I would say, especially starting up, it's hard, right? As long as you have the hustle and you know you're going to go out and make sure you're going to try to acquire, you know, new work and all.
And then you're just going to be, even if you don't get paid work, but you're going to be active with that camera, like I'm saying. It's like,
because you need that experience and that reel to show off right later on.
Exactly. So I would say, like, don't go, you know, unless, again, you can afford it, don't go buying, like, the Red Epic or something, but buy something under $1,000. It might be a lot of money for you, but save up for it, whatever, buy it, and then put it to use. Because, like I said, there's many people who, you know, spend a lot of money on film school, and that's an investment as a filmmaker. Not something I would recommend to everybody, because I think a lot of times now, especially, you're better off just, there's some cases where it makes sense to go to film school, but a lot of times I would say it just makes sense, instead of spending money on a film school, buy the right gear for you, right?
Yeah.
But then make sure you use it, because I've also known people who went to film school and then they like just did the assignments that were told, but they didn't do extra. They didn't really make use of all the gear and all the people and the community that's there at a film school. And then that's it. It's like the film school ended and they were like, oh, I'm not, nobody from Hollywood's calling, like, because you have to make use of it.
But I mean, the thing is, main reason, benefit that people quote, people who've gone to film school and who wanna, I guess, who think they had a good experience. So the main reason, benefit that they'll quote is that they got to, met other filmmakers.
That's what I'm saying. The community is a big thing at film school.
So yeah, but can you do? I mean, yeah, in a way, you get those people of your age liking the same things, and you come across really some smart, talented people. But at the same time, like, there are new ways now. Before it was more difficult, but now social.
Yeah, now it's now if you volunteer your time on sets, especially in the beginning, that's a great way to meet all these new contacts, because these are people actively shooting, right? These are going on these sets. And
you know what? I just came up with an idea. We should create like Tinder, the app, but instead of for dating or for like one night stand, like, I don't know, film there, where it's for filmmakers.
Looking for DP. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but like literally people that are local, because there's a lot of people, you'd be surprised, in these little towns that where filmmakers reach out to me and they're like, I live in this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere.
Do it, yeah.
There's nobody there. And you'd be surprised. There's so many usually other people who are interested. They want to do that. But then they're also sitting in their house going, oh, nobody wants to think. So then you might even meet face to face, but you just don't think about the fact that you are looking for the same kind of collaboration.
Yeah. And I think might fly. Yeah. I mean, they just did a Tinder version for dogs where you.
Oh yeah.
You put dogs.
So we do film there. So somebody who's an app developer contact me.
As a chance.
But
what would be the thing you'd be? Okay, what would be the thing you'd be looking on the profile?
No, so exactly like Clint said, like you have a certain camera gear. So it'd be like, hi, I'm Clint. I'm in this area. I have the Ursa. I have this camera package. I just want to work with other cool filmmakers, right? Or, let's say I'm only looking for paid projects or just looking to collaborate with people. Like, you put it out there and then people can be like, okay, cool, I like Clint, swipe or left or whatever, however Tinder works. But you could connect very quickly with people that way. And you could think, I think that'd be a great way.
That's not a bad idea.
I wanted to just make the point that going back to the film school is that, it is a good way to meet people. But Clint, you didn't go to film school, and in a short period of time, you met a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because you were actually creating a project. So,
exactly.
So like if you think about it, going to film school, spending so much time and money. Well, if you put
that
small part of that time and money and create a project, that will draw so many people to you, talented people to you. Because for good reasons, right?
Because how much is like average people are spending on film school?
I think it's a university. In the US it's even more, but in Canada, what is it? 20, 30 years for 4 years?
Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
20,000?
Yeah, for 4 years, depends.
Oh, wow. So if you take that 20,000 and you make like 10 short films,
you can get
you can do that.
With 20,000, you can get like a full arsenal of gear.
Yeah.
And then that's it. You're good to go. You can make your own project. That's what I did. I'm like, instead of going to film school, I'll invest in the gear. Part of it maybe, and that's how it worked.
So part of sometimes might be the reason why young people go to university is to justify it to their parents, like, because they'll say, I want to be a filmmaker, and you're like just finished high school, like, who the heck, who do you think you are? The parents, they'll be like, get to university.
That's the old thinking.
So then they'll be like, okay, I'm making the parents happy. Okay, don't take me seriously because I'm going to have a university degree, but still being able to, And
I'll tell you guys one other thing. Like many times people ask me about getting into film industry. Is like what school I need to go to or what experience I need to get. And I'll tell you this, at the end of the day, I got into film industry first as doing animation and doing special effects. I got in, I actually tried to go to animation school and got a nice response, letter from them. Oh, we're basically too many applications, so basically apply next year. I was bummed out, and then I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna go and apply for jobs. I'm gonna think, and first thing I realized is I need to show something. So I took a few months off. And I basically just sat at home, did work on my demo reel, and I started applying to jobs. And you'd be surprised, huge companies were calling me back, and not even one interview I went for, did they ask me, well, like look at my resume, ask me what school I go to, or even if I went to high school? None of them cared.
No, I think your experience
Because as an artist, yeah, when it comes to artistic things, they don't even care. Like literally, I guess even if I was illiterate, you know, I guess they wouldn't care. As long, all they cared about is they popped in the demo reel, we would watch it, and in each interview I had, they would just ask me, also, how did you create this? Because then they know by me telling them, okay, this guy actually did do this. He's not, you know, BSing. Because there are some people who steal, you know, people's work and they just put it as a demo reel. So they think, and then we just had a conversation, and it was like that. I was getting, you know, offers, and I started working in the film industry. So, you know, and this was right after high school, basically, for me. So I'm telling you guys that education, like this diploma and being legitimate and having film degree, none of it matters.
I mean, and then also can see films, but also see like in terms of like different like areas like machine learning. I see programming. Like schools are so slow to, you know, to stay, like they don't stay you know, up to date with the technology, right? What's happening.
Yeah.
So you guys like being just on YouTube and so on, and you know other websites, like you'll be way more better informed than these profs. Like, you know, there are some great instructors still, like, you know, teaching is a great, you know, like it's a great skill if somebody, you know, so you find a great teacher that person can make a huge difference in your life for sure, right?
Yeah,
so there's some, I don't want to
inspirational.
like, you know, dismiss, there's some great, amazing teachers and they happen to be some of them in universities. So then it is a great benefit to actually, you know, just work with a person like that, right? And but overall, like, yeah, there's the information is out there, and like just looking at the, not just like filmmaking, just looking, for example, yeah, I was looking at machine learning. It's like I can see universities, some very good universities, like the fact very few of them really are at the edge, and most of them are just really like behind, way behind. So you just can.
I think it's going to be changing, and it all starts with Finder, the new app for filmmakers.
Finder, yeah.
Any other questions? So we should be ending
questions.
because we all got to run.
Yeah.
We got things to do, people to see. Or
well, I wanted
whatever
one
it goes.
comment here that for Clint here, we had a fan, not just one, I'm sure, but here fan from Paris, France, Nicolas Bonal. He says that the series he just did about, you know, how to make a film, it really inspired him. Inspired
That's good.
It inspired me a lot for not giving up when I'm actually quitting my job right now to jump in filmmaking.
Wow.
Seriously. So,
All right. Well, all the best. I wish you all the best. What's the name? Nikolai?
yeah.
Nicholas?
Nicolas, yeah. Nicholas.
And you see, that's an example of a good teacher. So he did something where it inspires people and makes
That
people.
was my goal. So if I inspire at least one, at least I know. So keep in touch with me. Let me know how it goes. I like to see. I like to know your progress. Keep in touch. I'm always open, so you can always reach out to me, and I'll help you guys out.
Check out his YouTube channel for those of you who haven't. So, anyways, I think we should be finishing. It's already late and.
Let's finish a few
Yeah.
questions.
Okay.
So do you guys think that the lens, like, because you're talking so much about the camera, but how important is the lens?
Lens is, I would say, very important, right?
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Is like once you know what look you're going for, you're gonna know then what lenses you're going for, and then based on that you also know what camera. Because like let's say if you're shooting anamorphic, you know, certain cameras you just can't even shoot anamorphic, or you want to use certain type of lenses, but the mount is not compatible with your camera, like things like that.
They kind of go hand in hand. Like you should look at it as a package, the camera and lens together.
Yeah.
Now, we don't necessarily need to buy like the most expensive lenses, right? To get like
you need
most
a
of
fast
the
lens is what you probably need more.
Yeah, it just
than
gives you
anything
more
else.
options.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You get like cheaper ones. Like there's a Canon, like the 50mm. It's like so cheap, right? It's $200.
Yeah.
But it's like 1.8 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like plasticky. It's like a little small focus thing, but it'll do.
Exactly.
At least
yeah.
starting off, it'll do, right? Then you can upgrade to bigger, high quality glass lens. So yeah.
Another question here from Trevor. He says, why do Vedra lenses still fly relatively under the radar, especially when you can pair them with a Blackmagic or Panasonic and get true cinema glass operation?
I think it's marketing. I mean, part of it is.
So
you have a chance to check them out.
You agree?
Yeah, they're not. I guess it's. You know, there's some things like when let's just say when I dealt with the company or talked to their reps at NAB and stuff, they just say they could do things slightly better for their marketing. That's all I'm going to say without getting too critical. I think you know what I mean, but they're just Because at the end of the day, if you want as anybody, I'll just say anybody who's starting a company out there and is starting, you know, creating filmmaking gear. At the end of the day, I don't care whether your gear costs $5 or costs, you know, $50,000. what you care about is making sure that filmmakers, especially filmmakers that are being watched by others, are using your gear. If they're using your gear, they're talking about it, then other people will want to use it. There's companies that were obscure, nobody knew about them, and they made sure that their gear was available to these filmmakers that were prominent in the film industry. Boom, they blew up. So that's all I'm going to say. So Vedra, that's some of the problems that they have some great optics, but yeah.
Okay, in terms of here, hopefully I understand this question from Paranoid Factoid. It's okay. So he's asking, you're shooting an interview, right? You got one subject, but the subject might kind of improvise a lot, so you're not exactly sure. There's no script to follow, and you have just one camera to capture this with. But at the end, you want, I guess, make it as more interesting in the edit as you can, in terms of trying to make it look like there was more than one camera. What's the best approach to shoot this?
I think I've seen a situation like this. You have one camera only, right? So you can shoot wide, and then when you need to cut, you can punch in for the
that's where
you have to keep going back and forth between that.
You have a bigger, more resolution, so that allows you to punch in. But
I mean, having a good camera operator who can zoom in. Maybe
no, you don't zoom in. You post zoom in because you capture the whole thing wide. But then, since it's a one camera only, and there'll be almost in between. You want to cut those out, so sometimes you punch in post, and then you punch out again. You know how Killer Pike does it? He does that one camera setup, right? He has the wide, and he goes in and he comes out. Yeah. So.
Oh, but I mean, see, like good, on TV, sometimes you get good, camera
operators.
But those usually go just like they'll move around the subject. Let's say it's subject's shot.
But if it allows you, right? Like if somebody's in the middle of talking, you don't want to move the camera. But I would say another way. I mean, what Clint said, that's pretty much the best, way. I mean, I use that also for some of my tutorials. Like I'll just have one camera, shoot in higher resolution, and then finish in lower resolution, so it allows you to punch in. But also another thing is, which I've seen some people who do like corporate videos do that, where they'll shoot the main interview, so they'll see the person, being interviewed, and you see their face talking. But then afterwards, after the interview, because they only have one camera, but they want to get another angle, they'll switch it and get something like over the shoulder, something where it almost looks like you can kind of see the person's mouth, and then they'll just record like, there's just talking about some other stuff, like pretending like they're doing the interview. Just keep the subject. Oh, how was it? How was your day? We'll get a few seconds of that, and then you can always cut to that because you don't see the person's mouth. It looks like, this is still part of the interview. Like you're cutting back and forth. So
now, if you're shooting with one camera, probably it's a good idea to use some B-roll shots.
Yeah, that's also some B-roll would be nice to cut in between the footage.
Yeah.
That's okay. I think that might be. Let me see here. I think we addressed all them. I don't say we addressed all the questions because then I'll get. Well, what do you guys think about the Canon 980D? Any experience with the Canon 980D?
No idea.
No idea. So I think.
Is that a camera?
Is it new? I don't know.
Canon keeps coming out with these,
Really? Okay.
Who was talking about it?
Well, the 780D, so I'm assuming it's the same line.
Oh, maybe. I don't have much experience with the 80D either. So.
Yeah. Same, yeah.
Let's wrap it up.
All right. So that's it, guys. I think that's the end of the show. So thank you for joining us. Sorry for being late. But that's what happens when you're on location.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.